So why 277 Wolverine? That's a good question. Cartridge is very new. It's less than 2 years old, but it's developed a following quicker than 300 Blackout did. I think this is because it has the versatility of Blackout but the energy of a 6.8 SBC. It really is a 6.8 SBC, but half the cost. Factory loadings are already available for it, and so are the dies for reloading. Making brass for it is easy as Blackout and doesn't require any special bolts or magazines like the 6.8. To understand why 277 Wolverine is so advantageous, we have to look at some of the data. Here in front of you is a quick comparison chart comparing 5.56 or 223, 300 Blackout, 6x45, 6.8 SBC, and the 277 Wolverine. It's not overly scientific as I used an online ballistic calculator, but it still gets the point across. As you can see, the 5.56 and 223 is the least effective, and 300 Blackout is not much better. Both rounds dip under the standard 500 foot-pounds of energy at less than 350 yards. This is why 5.56 223 is considered by many to be a varmint cartridge. It just doesn't have the energy. While it can get the job done on medium game, like deer and hogs, it really should be at a closer range. I know people have used this cartridge on deer successfully, but it does not leave much of a blood trail, and shot placement is key to being successful here. 300 Blackout is nearly identical energy-wise to 223, but it can be loaded for subsonic use. For a hunter, none of this is a great advantage, except that the 30 cal bullet has better terminal performance to the 223. The bigger bullets just tend to expand better and carry their energy a little bit better. It's still anemic at anything but close range on deer-sized game, unfortunately, though. It can also be chambered in 5.56 rifle, which is potentially catastrophic if somebody doesn't pay attention and fires the round while in the chamber. It'll essentially just turn it into a pipe bomb. It requires being diligent as to what's going into your AR. So if you got these two together, you really do need to make sure the ammos are separated. But it's pretty obvious here. You can see on the chart, the red and blue lines, they almost completely mimic each other. And really, they're out of energy before even 350 yards. 6x45 or 6mm 223 has been around for a long time as a wildcat, and is really the first next step in energy for the AR-15. It adds about 100 foot-pounds of energy, and it has tons of different bullets available for it. It's easy to convert the brass from 223, and it carries its energy better at range. Problem is, the terminal performance is only so-so on medium game still. Bullets are still relatively light and don't get exit holes much of the time. The last big hit on the cartridge is that it's purely a wildcat here. There's no factory ammo available for it, limiting number of people who use it. Really, you're stuck to reloading for it. You don't have a whole lot of choice. Next up is 6.8 SBC. 6.8 revolutionized medium game hunting with AR-15s. Finally, we had a cartridge that had excellent terminal performance and a point-blank range of 250 yards. It carries 500 foot-pounds of energy out to 450 yards, and the 270 bullets often produce excellent exit wounds and good bullet weight retention. The round is commercially available as loaded ammo, making it easy to choose. Now, the problem with 6.8 is that the round requires a non-standard bolt and does not feed reliably from standard AR-15 magazines without modification. This increases the cost of building a rifle in this caliber. The solution for me came in 277 Wolverine. It uses a shortened version of the 223 case and the 270 bullet to produce 96% of the energy of 6.8 SBC. It retains its energy well, just like the 6.8, because it uses the same bullets. So, as you can see here, you got the yellow line here represents the 6x45. It's not very easy to see. You can kind of see the data points. It's kind of right in the middle. Next up, you've got the 277 Wolverine in red, and then the 6.8 SBC in green here, obviously being the most powerful. It doesn't use non-standard parts and requires nothing more than a barrel swap. Normal magazines for AR-15 work perfectly, and unlike 300 Blackout, it cannot chamber in a 5.56 chamber. For the late person, factory ammo is available from two different companies already. For the reloader, Hornady and Lee make dies for the cartridge, and making the brass is no harder than making blackout brass. In fact, the process is identical overall. 277 Wolverine is also able to be loaded subsonic for the suppressor-loving folks. Because of the limited case capacity, 150 grain bullets can be loaded subsonic, and 200 grain bullets are available for the heavy hitters. Disadvantage here is the limited number of reloading powders available for it. Liant 1200R, Accurate 2200, 1680, and 5744 are the main powders used here. For Hodgdon IMR, 4198 can be used, but it must be very compressed. Mathematically, H110 is supposed to work, but because it peaks pressure so early, it does not work in the mid-length gas system. By the time it gets there, it just doesn't cycle the system. Finally, and most important to some, is the cost. Wolverine is half the cost of 6.8 to load. Finally, and most importantly to some, is cost. The 277 Wolverine is half the price of 6.8 to load. It's a huge advantage to the guy who wants to really use the rifle. You can actually afford to shoot this. I consider 1,000 rounds to be a relatively small amount of shooting a year, but it allows for an easy cost comparison. So, for example, we've got 223 Remington or 5.56, whatever you want to call it. Your average bullet costs about 15 cents, brass. If you're buying Lake City, you can get it about $80 for 1,000, so it's 8 cents a case. Powder, it's about 7 cents worth, and primers are about 3 cents. So each time you pull the trigger, you're going to cost yourself about 33 cents. So per 100, $33. Per 1,000, 330. So we'll use that as the standard. Blackout, as you can see, is significantly more expensive. I based this off of the 125 grain load, which is pretty standard. And it came out to 46 cents a round. So for 1,000, you're talking $460. So it's an extra $130 on top of it. 6x45 isn't quite so expensive. The bullets are a little less. Powder and primers and everything's about the same. So you're still talking 43 cents a round. And so $400 to $30. It's about $100 more than 223, but it also gets you a lot more energy for it. Next we have 6.8 SPC. So it's a great round. Problem is right here, cost of the brass. Talking 79 cents a case. That hurts it a lot when it comes to loading it. You're talking almost $1.20 per shot. $118 for 100, or $1,180 if you're going to shoot 1,000. Almost $1,200 to shoot 1,000 rounds. That's just too much. Can't do it. So we have the 277 Wolverine. Cost is about the same as 300 Blackout, but your energy is almost identical to 6.8. You're right there in terms of power. I mean, you're talking almost a third of the cost. So that's huge. I mean, by comparison, my 7.8 AR-10, this is the cost for 100 rounds. 1,000 rounds for the AR-10 still cost half as much as shooting a 6.8. That's ridiculous. So, 277 Wolverine, by far the best bang for your buck that you can find in an AR-15.